Welcome to everybody to the Inner Space talk on a Friday night. Tonight we are talking on finding balance on uneven ground. Our speaker is Craig Gordon. Craig is joining us from Miami. Craig has been teaching dance across the world from Taipei to Argentina, as well as China, the Philippines, and obviously in the United States. We just heard that he's also been choreographing some of the dances for Dancing with the Stars, I think is what they call it in America. In England, we call it Strictly Come Dancing. So somebody who has a huge amount of expertise and has been sharing it across the world. He's taught premieres as well as people in nursing homes, and I think that's amazing to be able to share your skill, not just with people who are interested in what you're doing, but with people who just to bring joy into their life, and that's a gift in its own right. Craig also teaches yoga, breathwork, and meditation. We've asked Craig to talk about how to find balance when internally everything seems to be a question mark and the world around you is throwing up all sorts of unusual, unexpected things that are required from you. We've had a year of COVID in England and we're now coming out of it, but out of our latest lockdown, and the number of people out is incredible. But what about the uneven ground of just everyday life? How do you navigate it and still find joy in it? How are you able to step surely when things are not even and not sure around you? Craig will be taking questions, your questions, after his talk. So we're going to request that you put your questions not so much in the chat, but more on the question and answer link. And then I will take those questions and I will pose them on your behalf to Craig. After his talk, there'll be a short meditation that he's going to lead us in, and then he'll be taking your questions. Craig, over to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Artie, and I really appreciate being invited to come at all. And I'm happy to be there in England, just as I would be happy in whether a premier or a nursing home here. So the title of today's talk, Finding Balance on Uneven Ground. Well, first, let's do a little definition of the terms, like what is balance? Well, according to Oxford, it's, stability, equipoise, that's a word I like. I usually use the word equanimity. Aesthetically pleasing. Balance also in mathematics is something left over, a remainder. And all these definitions I'm pretty excited about because they all apply not only to the definition of the word balance, but to this more subtle internal balance, this type of spiritual balance, a balance of consciousness. And they're all leading up to this one thing, is mental and emotional steadiness. And that's what we really need. I've realized, and I'm sure you've realized as well, that there's no prediction of what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis. 2 years ago, let alone even knowing such a thing as Zoom existed, we weren't prepared for a pandemic. But look how things have changed now. We're stepping out of it. And this is going to remain. A lot of things are going to be changed forever. I mean, we're actually living at a time of a real change in the life of man. You're lucky to be alive at this time. We get to see it. And so the ground is rather uneven. Anytime there's change, that's what change is. Another way of saying uneven ground is just change is taking place. And if I'm used to everything being still, it's rather frightening. If someone, back in 1840 saw a moving picture, they'd be frightened. They're used to seeing a painting. But as time goes, now we're so used to anything like that. It's just change. So what are the skills I need to have change, to remain stable as change is taking place? So balance, stability. Also, another thing I like about balance is the balance of power shifting. It means that I have a chance to change the balance of things by my actions. And that's another thing we're looking for in life. And all these things are very closely related to this subject matter. What about uneven ground? What do I need in order to find balance in this situation, this very situation here? Well, for us, I'm here sitting in South Florida and you're sitting somewhere else. And I want to connect with you. So I'm using Zoom to connect with you. But really what I'm using to connect with you is myself. And I'm trying to bring out the clearest self, the most unaffected self, the most welcoming self. That's what's going to help this moment. Not necessarily the cleverest or the smartest or the best or anything of that nature, which is measurement, because then I'm going to start judging. And already I'm not at an optimal place. So balance would be more difficult because the ground is being made more uneven. What do I need to have balance on uneven ground? Flexibility, of course. Resilience, because I'm going to fail a lot. Strength. Deciding power, that's something that I really like. And we overlook is a lot of times it's just power to make decisions is what keeps me from having peace of mind. I may want to do it and I see the value in do it, but I have to go around and ask so many people, what should I do? What should I do? Because I lack trust. I lack faith in the self. And this is part of the thing too. How do we go from faith into trust? So when you have faith, well, there's the answer. It takes courage. In order to make a decision, it takes courage. The courage just to take a step. There's a saying that yogis use is that take one step of courage and you'll be given 1,000 steps of help. And I've discovered this, that it's really quite true. One step of courage does give 100-fold, even 1,000-fold steps in return. That's all it takes. So let's do a little demonstration of balance. First, the prerequisites. And as we do this demonstration, feel free to join in. This is not just me doing it to show you that I can do it. It's for all of us. We're all in this together. So the prerequisites of balance are thus. Number one is alignment. Everything has to be aligned. Physically, that's posture. So I try to get everything aligned so that I'm not taxing anything. In metaphysical terms or in terms of knowledge, knowledge is the alignment. I'm learning the instructions of how to do something. That's just to get started. It doesn't mean I have it. I learn and take the instructions. So my alignment, good posture. Secondly, breath. These are all necessary things for balance. Number one, alignment. Two, breath. Inhaling and exhaling. That is all that it is. Inhaling and exhaling. Another word for an inhalation is an inspiration. It's no accident. So I inspire with each breath. Take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale. And exhale is relaxation. it's letting go. So I'm finding a balance even in my breath between inspiration and letting go, between inspiration and relaxing. And a friend of mine was just telling me about this book, Breathe, that was here, it's on the bestseller list. And just one point that I remember that him telling me was that just a simple 5-count inhale and 5-count exhale does wonders. So let's do 3 of those together. Through the nose, let's inhale, count to 5. And exhale the same way. And again, inhale. And exhale. And one more time, inhale. And exhale. See, I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm always amazed of how good and different I feel after just a few rounds of breath. So again, the prerequisites for balance: alignment, breath, and probably most importantly, focus. We even use a term in dance, the way that you could do 15 pirouettes. You can't do them unless you do spotting. And that's keeping your eyes focused on a single point. If you're turning, you come right back to it and come right back to it again. And so here we're just standing still, but to keep my focus, instead of wandering around, fixed. And that, of course, is the basis of meditation, is to focus. So let's try a very simple thing. Oh, maybe I can do this. We'll try. There, that should work. I just wanted to turn it that way for a moment so you could see. So there we go. I hope that works for you. So first of all, I'm just standing. And I remember my alignment. So I'm trying to get straight. My legs are hips, my spine all in line. That's alignment. And then just like in algebra, if you remember that on one side of the equation, you have to balance it on the other side. Whatever you do on one side, you have to do the same thing on the other side. If I want to go up, I have to press down. So if I want to lift one leg up in the air, the other leg has to press more strongly into the ground. So I'm standing on my right leg and my left knee comes up. So in order to bring the knee up, I'm pressing down. I maintain my alignment. Then it can be just anything I want to do with it. I'm stable in this pose, and that's good enough. And I'm breathing, and I'm focused because I'm keeping my eye right on you. Well, maybe we'll just take a very simple yoga pose that people call the tree pose. You just put your foot right in there. It could be there. It could be there. It doesn't really matter where it is. You could be sitting. You could be doing this sitting. It doesn't matter. And again, I'm in alignment, I'm breathing, and I'm focused. Then I can go through my various variations and extensions of the pose. Here I am in a growing tree. The tree is growing. And then once I've practiced for a while, then I could put my hands out and be a fruit-bearing tree. Simple as that. So that's just an example of balance. But I want you to think more as I'm speaking about these things, not the physical thing itself, which is fun and beneficial, but what kind of its metaphoric or more subtle meanings of balance, because they still apply. See, it's from root, like a tree, I did root to rise. I have to press down to go up. How do I deal with consequences and what's happening? Perhaps there's been a severe loss in a relationship, maybe a breakup, a divorce, I lose a loved one, or a financial crash, or a health crisis. These are big things. How do I partner with these things? How do I maintain my balance with these things? First and foremost, I have to have the space for them. And most of us, if you're like me, our lives are so busy that it's hard to take time to make space because we cut that part off because we're so busy doing, accomplishing, get it done, that I forget that I have to take that time to focus for an inspiration. So right back to the breath. There's no event that happens where breath is non-essential. You can't hold your breath forever. We have to breathe. So I need that inspiration as part of my life. So here's the one young man in the yoga studio that I've been talking to shared something with me. And he said, oh, men make mistakes. And then he says, and a smart man learns from his mistakes. And then he told me, and a wise man learns from the mistakes of the smart man. And that's true. And what I learn is that let me set myself up in advance that there may be trouble ahead. I can't guarantee. We all want to think of it as like, and they live happily ever after. But we realize that it doesn't really work like that things continue to happen in our lives, unexpected things that I didn't even know that I would ever have to face, and I'm kind of scared to even think about them. Well, I don't need to think about them, but what I want to do is have as much space, inner space. Look, it's the name of this program is Inner Space. I want to have enough inner space for anything that comes in my way. I live just a very stone's throw from the ocean. And when you go out by the ocean, you see how massive and expansive that it is. And it welcomes everything. There's boats in it. A tomato can be in it. A knife can be in it. Sunken treasure is in it. Who knows what fish are doing in it? And yet, what do people do? They go to its shore to be refreshed because it can accommodate, because the ocean has space. So I use that as a metaphor for myself is let me continue to accumulate space. This is the balance shifting. I have a positive balance. And when you look at your account and you feel that you have my balance has accrued interest over time, I feel good and I'm not especially spending my principal. By utilizing in a prudent way my resources. And the most important resource that I have is my thoughts. Let me give full value to the resource of my thoughts. I can't stress that enough to anyone watching, how important it is that every thought that you have has significance. And so many are going to come by. I mean, I'm going to have thousands of thoughts. I've been doing this for a while, and I can remember one time teaching a group of people meditation. And one of the men in the meditation, this was probably in the 90s when I was doing this, and he was one of the ad men who started the MTV type commercials where there's fast images coming. So they did a big study on how many images people could assimilate and still understand them in some way. And how many thoughts or images do you think people can have? How many thoughts can we have in our mind? What they came to discover is the human being can have up to 25 images per second that flash across the mind that they can record. They might not be able to consciously tell you, but it's made a significant impact, 25 per second. Well, if you multiply that times 60, you find out what is in a minute, times 60 in an hour, times 24 in a day. It's an astounding number. Question, does that seem peaceful or stressful? So this is part of the balance thing, to the point of focus. Let me focus my thoughts on the things that have value for me. And it's really, improving in life has less to do with addition to things and more to do with subtraction. If I continue to bring my past knowledge, and knowledge has nothing to do with memory. Knowledge has to do, and I've learned this through dancing. Knowledge is imparted not through memory, because memory doesn't help you when the timing is something else. And if your partner is doing one thing, your memory, even if you're right and they're wrong, you're no longer with them. What's important is that you're in connection, in unity with them. So I'm more interested in the type of learning that has to do with connection. And that's what we can share right now. We're connecting right now. The words that will come and go, you won't really remember. Oh, that was kind of good. But what will be remembered is that the feeling that you got. Was there a connection that was being made between the speaker and me? And that's what remember, the feeling that I have. And that's when we really start to have progress and find power and find the balance that's okay in anything. I'll give you an example. One of my yogi friends some time ago had a debilitating illness, and she found herself in the hospital in kind of a critical condition. And when I went to visit her, I said, "How are you?" And she said, "This moment I'm okay." I said, "Really?" She says, "Yeah, everything's good because I can handle this moment." I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "Well, what I figured out is here she was also a professional dancer, and that this illness that she had, she might not be able to walk again, let alone dance again. And this is what she was facing, and she was young at this time, probably in her early 40s. That's young now. And tell me more, I said. And she said, "Well, this moment is okay. The last moment was okay. I don't know about the moment coming to me, but I'm looking at this moment. It's pretty good. I'm sitting here. I'm well fed. And what I've been doing is I've been counting the ceiling tiles. So the moment's very good. Do you know that there's 615 ceiling tiles in this room?" So it's just the way that she looked at it that changed the whole thing. And I said, wow, it's such an important thing. She was able to do that. And yet I'm getting upset at the person that I don't think is going fast enough on the roadway ahead of me, because I'm concerned with what's happening next, or think someone's impeding my way instead of being in the present. So here's another very important thing about balance and the focus part of balance. If you want to lighten your load, there's only 3 aspects of time. We have the past, the present, and the future. So the one I'm living in is the present. That's the only one that really has the bearing on anything I'm doing. So if I focus now, if I can focus completely on the now at this moment, that means that the past is temporarily not there and the future hasn't yet arrived. So I don't need to bring the memories and the burdens of the past with me into this moment. And I don't need to have the anxieties about the future. So I've increased my power by 3, a factor of 3, just by being in the present. This is no special skill. I didn't have to read any book. I didn't have to travel to a mountaintop. I didn't have to adopt a guru. I didn't have to do anything. I simply have to be in this moment now, and I'm free from that. I'll relate one thing to dance. There's this American motivational speaker that just passed away last year, Wayne Dyer, who's a long list of best-selling books. As a matter of fact, one of the speakers that RT had here, Meredith Laporte, also from Miami, she was a producer and television journalist, and she organized a talk some years ago with Wayne Dyer, so I was able to meet him. And his point is this, as describing what dancing is. The purpose of dance is not to get to a certain point on the dance floor, but to enjoy the entire process from one point to another. Each step should be enjoyable. And that's really what life is. You know, you're not trying, we think that we have to have these goals to get from, I'll be happy when I get this. I got another goal, and I'll be happy when I get this. But what about until then? So is goal-oriented really the best way to be? Like if you think of goal as having a beginning and an end, well, if you think of life, a beginning and end, what would the goal of life be? That would be death. Well, I'm in no hurry to get to that point. What I'm concerned with is the process of my life. How do I feel while I'm here? I call that the dance of life. And that's being in the moment. That's another thing that dancing has taught me, because you're really in the now each moment. It doesn't matter. And if you're doing a routine, if you make a mistake, you can't be thinking about it, or you're going to make 10 more mistakes. So if that's true on the dance floor, then that's also going to be true in life. This is what I look for. I look for truth. If something is true, it's true in everything. And that has little to do with faith and more to do with trust, like gravity. I don't have faith that there's gravity. I have trust that gravity will be there night and day. The seasons, if a person that had never seen winter before was suddenly put in Alaska during the dead of winter, they think the world is coming to an end. But the person who lives there knows there will be a spring that comes, because trust is based on knowledge. So I have to have knowledge in order to have trust. So let me, number one, learn the steps of life. That's what it starts with. And dancing, you go through a process, and it doesn't matter if it's dancing or yoga or anything. First, you learn the step, and you spend all your time learning the step, and then you learn another step, and you learn another step, and you learn another step, and then you put those two together. So you make that first transition of going from learning steps to making the transitions of the steps be graceful. And that's where the dancing begins. It's not in the steps, but how I make the transition in life. How I make that transition. We make a transition from child to teenager to adult to old age. And I have to be able to make all those transitions with happiness. So then after the transition, what's next is the final thing about dancing or anything is not the steps, not the transitions of the steps, but who am I? Who am I while I'm doing these steps? And that's what I teach my advanced students, is that at the level of advance, you're no longer doing a step to say, well, look how well I do step A or step B, or look how I fit the music. It's who am I being? What am I expressing? And this is when something becomes art, is when the meaning, the thing that you're doing is just the instrument to bring you to it. This is something I've learned through dance. It's all the same thing. Well, are there any past experiences, any aggravations, resentments? See, the big things like a health crisis or a financial loss, these are really, really big things. But what about these tinier things that take my energy, like being aggravated at someone, being frustrated, holding on to a resentment for years? How much energy am I spending doing that? So this also frees up space, inner space. See, that's just a perfect example. We got a lesson right there. I think Artie probably put that in there on purpose, that happened, just so that I could walk the walk, that we have to have space for these things that happen, the unexpected. So if something happens where we get cut off, let's stay connected to this thought of, I must maintain myself balance. I must maintain balance no matter what's happening. And eventually we have the balance that's really important. It's the lifelong balance. It's the balance that's related to aging. And this is probably the one aspect that people are most unprepared for, is this whole idea of aging. And probably it's not such a desirable thing in most people's minds in order to get older. But what do I have to do? Like every given moment, I can ask myself, what is the best thing I can do to balance this moment? I can't go out and run 10 miles now. I can walk 2 miles. So I make that adjustment happily. And what this allows me is what I find that what's the most important thing in what I call remaining relevant, and I think this is extremely important, is that's the key to aging gracefully, is to remain relevant. And the way to remain relevant is to continue to learn. I must learn in order to remain relevant. That's why here we are on the Zoom. In order for me to get across any knowledge that I have that I'd like to share with you, I have to be able to be capable of doing this. You can always, I'm sure you've seen so many funny things on YouTube and everything about people having a Zoom meeting, but grandpa's just got the top of his hair or the kitchen cabinet that he's zooming to and getting all frustrated. Or I don't want to end up being the guy with the flip phone because I can't figure out how to use the phone. I have to change with the times. I can remember my own grandmother not having a TV saying, I've got along with radio just fine up to now and I'll continue. And what happens is that we get left behind. You know, to use that analogy of the Eskimos again, and the Inuits, the way they deal with old age and relevance is very stark, is that grandpa gets in a kayak and he paddles away and never comes back again because he can't take care of himself and the family can't survive if he comes along. So he finds his way to deal with his irrelevance. Here, it's not so bad. It's easier. And if you want to remain happy, then you want to remain relevant. Why is it so hard to be open with another, to resolve our differences in a timely manner? Life is finite. Life is finite, but it has a specific end. And yet sometimes we behave as if we have forever to deal with something. So we keep procrastinating and putting things off to change. And that's why that one of the big motivational things is do it now. Live in the now, do it now. That takes courage, that takes strength. I have to be able to find space again. I have to have the inner space for that. Let's try something. I don't even know if this will work. Let's take it, because what I find is that it's really all about courage again. And we just need a little step of courage. So maybe this might be the first time we've ever done this on inner space. We'll call this the step of courage cha-cha. And so I need some courage. Usually when something happens, the first thing that comes is I'm not going to go right into it. I'm going to fall back. I'm going to retreat because I'm afraid. So I step back and then I said, no, you know what? I want to go forward again. So I bring myself forward. So let's do that again. I step back and forward. You can try this if you want. Why not? Back and forward. There's my step of courage. A step of courage. Then I'm going to take another little step. It doesn't have to be a big step, a baby step. And another baby step. And another baby step. That's all. I'll get back a little further. A step of courage. Step, step, step. That's all it takes. It doesn't look like anything. Anyone could do that. A step, and of course, this first step is fear, of courage, step, step, step. But let me give it another syllable, and it becomes a dance. Let's call it a step of courage, cha, cha, cha. Do it again. A step of courage, cha, cha, cha. One more time. a step of courage, cha-cha-cha. And then, of course, I could just keep it going. I could go all the way around the room, cover anywhere, just taking steps of courage, cha-cha-cha. So there you have it, the first time right here on inner space, the step of courage, cha-cha. So again, it's about partnering and not competing. So I don't compete with life. I try to partner with life, and especially with the people that are in my life. That's where it becomes kind of dicey. I have to surrender myself to the steps, the instructions. That's what I do first. I learn the instructions. So the instructions of meditation. I'm a being of peace. I want to see myself as a being of peace. In spite of all the other thoughts that are there, as you remember, you could have 25 thoughts per second. All those different thoughts that I could possibly have, I'm choosing to say, I'm a being of peace. Those are the instructions that I follow. And I start to apply that, having the faith that maybe I'm not experiencing it now, but I like the sound of it. I want some of that for myself. And then I start the practice of doing it. And what I have found, if the practice is fun, it's an end unto itself. And the learning just happens without you knowing it. I was going over this with a student the other day. I said, you know how many times you've done this movement? She said, how many? I said, oh, about 2,000. Do you know how many times we've got it correctly? About 20. So 20 out of 2,000 times. Was it ever not enjoyable? No. The process of doing it is so enjoyable that judging myself about it is no longer there. So the music, the dancing distracts me from the fact that I'm so-called failing. There's really no such thing as the failing. The failing is not doing it. So keep doing it. Who am I being while I'm doing the steps? We've done the step of courage, cha-cha. One more thing about learning is, again, it's not memory, it's about connection. And I'd like to close this part of it before we go into the question Q&A part of it, is a quote from a song. They're lyrics from a song that was written long before any of us were even born, back in the 1930s. And it's from one of those Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movie. And the song is "Let's Face the Music and Dance." And it was known as just a dance tune. It was very frivolous. You know, people are dancing in gowns and tails, but the lyrics are very different. Listen, there may be trouble ahead, but while there's music and moonlight and love and romance, let's face the music and dance. Before the fiddlers have fled, before they ask us to pay the bill, and why we still have a chance, let's face the music and dance. Soon we'll be without the moon, humming a different tune, and then there will be teardrops to shed. And so where there's moonlight and music and love and remembrance, let's face the music and dance. And that's a good place to close that part. And I never realized how profound those lyrics were, that something that is existential in life can be also a dance tune. So your process, don't think of it as grueling. Say, oh, I'd really love, I don't have time to do this, because you think it's going to be difficult. You think the spiritual adventure is going to be a difficult thing, and you're disciplined, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to give up anything. No, it's about getting more pleasure into your life. It's about removing the unnecessary and kind of a streamlined version of yourself, more of the real you. That's all we're trying to find out, is the essential me, the one that can face the music and dance. And that's what it means to maintain balance on uneven ground. So let's face the music now. And the music here is me, my own thoughts. And so again, let me just go the same way that I talked about finding balance. Let me apply that to myself, those three aspects. Number one, alignment, physically and mentally, that I bring myself in alignment, that I'm here, I know what purpose I'm here for, and I'm going to do it. And then breath. Let's take 3 deep breaths together. We're all expert at breath. We all do it again. Just to clear everything out so it can flow. And then begin to focus. And what I'm focusing on is where my thoughts start. And I don't know about you, but where I feel my thoughts are is somewhere in this area. I know it's not in any other part of the body because I can feel the thoughts coming from my head. So this is me. This is where I am. That's who's thinking. And let me just stay there for a moment. And just keep doing that. And perhaps you could be open to some of the words that I'll share with you. Let me face myself. It's pleasant. And take a look inside instead of looking without. That's the first part. Just looking inside. And I offer the thought that it's peaceful in there. That if I look through all the other stuff, then what will I find is peace? And that's what I want you to focus on now. Is that part of you that is peaceful. And as you think about it, you begin to feel that peace. You can experience that peace. And you can even say, I am that peace. It's the same thing with love. As I think about love, I can begin to feel it bubbling inside, that it's not something on the outside, it's something that's in me. In fact, it is me. I experience it. I can say that I even am that. And one more. Let's take bliss. I love that word, bliss. It's like unconditional happiness. That bliss is inside of me. I know that it is. I don't have faith that it is. I trust that it is. I know that it is. I feel that bliss. I experience that bliss. I am that bliss. Om Shanti just means greetings of peace.
Thank you, Craig, for taking us through that. I must say, I really love the cha-cha-cha of the step of courage. And it's something I will practice.
I bet it's your first cha-cha in inner space.
It absolutely is. I'm absolutely delighted with that one. But there's been a number of people who said, thank you for sharing such deep, insightful aspects of how to approach life. That's really incredible. So thank you for that. I'm going to start with the questions. The first one is, I don't feel successful unless I'm busy and constantly doing something. Sometimes juggling many things at once. How can I achieve balance in this regard?
Well, you're going to have to grow many, many arms You know, I was going to take that thing of the balancing pose and then say, okay, now someone throw me a bowling ball and someone throw me an ice cream cone and someone throw me a feather. Well, there's a certain point where I can't do it anymore. So I have to figure out what it is that I want to achieve by doing, is I want to get a feeling of success. I want to get a feeling of acceptance. I want to get a feeling of peace. I want to get a feeling of accomplishment. These are wonderful things. In order to, without even changing, you can still stay in that same way, but by just going within for a second, oh, I need space for that. In order to do this well, I need space for that. So if you want to learn something really well, you can't be doing other things at the same time. If I'm learning the cha-cha, it's not the time to be learning how to change the oil of my car. I have to be able to focus on that thing. So it's giving value to what I'm doing at this moment, trusting. A lot of times I can only speak for myself. I kind of identify with you. What I find myself when I'm juggling all these things is because I don't trust that I'll be good enough just by being me, that by being all those things, I kind of measure my success by how exhausted I feel at the end of the day. And that is one way, but that's finite in its accomplishment. So I hope I answered that question for you.
Thank
Anything
you.
else?
Yep, lots. Next one. How do we create space for the unexpected?
Well, you create space just for itself. It's something that you understand that you do. It's just like you sleep because you need energy. You don't know what's going to come the day, but you know you have to get that time in. You eat for the same reason. In the same way, I have to be diligent, that knowing that guaranteed the unexpected is happening. Guaranteed the unexpected is happening. So I've given you a good start. Number one, when you think of alignment, it's just taking some knowledge. Find something that's inspirational to you, something that you really like, and put it in front of you and give yourself a set of time. Take 5 minutes, take a minute of time just to be with that and focus exclusively on that. And by exclusively on that, you're shifting the balance of power. Here's another meaning of balance. That balance just isn't being able to stand on one foot. It's also shifting the balance of power. And the result is another form of balance, is I have a remainder. And that remainder is called space, because I've taken up that. By doing one thing well, now I've created space by not filling up with the unnecessary, as I often call it to my friends, drivel. Enough of that. Next question.
I'm currently going, and this is actually a very difficult situation for somebody. I'm currently going through a very difficult period in my life. I'm carrying my first child, and the baby might have a problem, which is devastating. I've been through a lot already, and I'm always doing my best to stay positive. But I don't know how to cope this time. How do I not let myself go and face this new challenge regardless of the outcome?
You've already done such a great thing by sharing that. That is a true step of courage. I commend you for being vulnerable enough and honest enough and open enough to do that. And that already is giving you that strength. It's always the same process, no matter what's happening, that I can be, ask yourself at this moment, whatever you're feeling, what do I need to get a feeling of balance at this moment? What is it? And trust your mind that you'll come up with the answers, because I can see how sincere you are. in your question, how powerful that is. Am I back?
You are back. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
There's just some people just, they can get right through no matter what they want to do. And this is just part of it. See, I have to have space for that. That happens. It's nothing like this woman that I have great empathy towards, the space that you need. And remember that it's you and this other soul. And what I found in my own self, I've never had that problem, but any other critical problems I've had, like with someone close coming to death in my life, is that I have to take the focus off of myself and my own weaknesses and my own fears and think about what's the best thing I can do in this situation. As the way I spoke with Artie in the beginning, that I find that I'm much my best when I'm an instrument. I don't think of myself as being someone who can speak to others on Zoom. But if I recognize that it might be instrumental in someone else and I forget about myself for a second, I find that my purpose or my role, by sticking to whatever my role is, I find it very beneficial to take the focus off myself. And of course, stay around positive people and continue to do things like inner space. Anything that you can come up with, come like that. All this food for the mind to come. And I will hold my best thoughts for you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, I can only echo that. Thank you for being so open. And yes, if there's anything we can support you with, do be in touch with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's, we find that there's nothing as powerful as truth. And we're all partners. See, that's what I've really realized, is that we're all partners. I'll give you an example of how close we are, even in time. I once had a student who was quite elderly, and her father was elderly when she was born. And when he was a young man, his job was a telegraph runner. And a telegraph runner was someone who would take the news from the telegraph, which was always at the train station because the lines followed the tracks. And he'd run it into town and give it to the editor of the newspaper, and then they'd set the print to do it. Well, one day in his town, he brought the news that President Lincoln had been shot, and that was 1865. So just through one person, through two people, I was connected to Abraham Lincoln, just through two people. So if I could be connected through time, I'm also connected through all of us that are living at the same time. We're living at the same time. We're very connected. And what happens to you is also happens to me. So we're all in this together. Again, thank you so much for sharing.
Craig, the next question. I'm a task-orientated person, and I get quite serious while doing a task, even in meditation. And I find it difficult to make a task fun. Can you give some examples of making the practice of I'm a peaceful being fun, so I don't get bored or frustrated with my busy mind?
Well, it's really not the task, is it? It's that it's me, and I relate to that right away. I'm not only am I task oriented, I'm so one-dimensional. I have a middle school daughter, and she's in the back seat with a friend of hers, and I'm driving the car, and the friend says, "Oh, my daughter's, her name is Malika. Oh, Malika's dad," and I could hear my daughter saying to her, "You don't talk to my dad right now. He's turning the corner," because she has realized that I can only do one thing at a time to the exclusion of all else. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. What happens is the irritation that I experience when my task is interrupted. Oftentimes, I don't know if this applies to you, but it applies to me, that sometimes my task orientation is because I'm avoiding something else, that I find that I want to get done doing that and I want to stay busy instead of exploring. So I invite you to go and take a meditation course on just on being. See, we're not, the name of the creature we are is human being. It's not a human doing. It's a human being. And I'm sure you know all the answers yourself. We just have to convince ourselves that it's what we can do. A step of courage, cha-cha-cha. Next.
The next one is, I love the steps forward every day. Can you suggest a few movements I can do early morning to feel more positive about myself?
I would say stretching is very good. I do this one with any client all the time, every day, just doing that, and do a couple of those on either side and maybe a little sway to the side, combined with breathing. Beneficial immediately. You do a couple of things like that, you're fine.
Thank you. How do you teach someone to have internal space using your wonderful steps?
Well, they're right there. So the thing is to practice them. That's what it is. It's there's knowledge and then there's learning. The learning is the process of making the knowledge mine. So it's putting into practice, like I shared recently about this client, when we realized that for every 2,000 times she does the step right 20 times, that's not a very big percentage, like 1 out of 100, I guess, if my math skills are correct. So if she's still having fun, having success 1 time out of 100, it's not a bad thing to do, is it? So find it, what it is, find your step to do, which could be a meditation, a little mantra that you have, whatever it is that you're doing, and do it. Just do it over and enjoy doing it. That's the key. There's the key. There's your answer. Enjoy doing the practice. Enjoy doing the practice.
Next question. I have social anxiety, which has become much worse during lockdown. What can I do to help myself in these situations, as they are becoming almost phobic? I already meditate regularly.
Well, let's start with breathing. That's where we start. Number 1, breathing. And evidently, that's really a sign of a lot of thinking. And not just the thinking about the present, but thinking about the future. It's probably related to anxiety. I imagine maybe there's some anxiety as well. And that has a lot to do with the future. And guess what? That future's not here yet. So sometimes I need to be disciplined. And I don't really know the answers of what I need, but what I need to know, I may not need to be, I don't know how to get there. Like, to actually, I live some distance from Miami, but I'll use that as an example. I can't walk there right away. It takes a long time to get there, but it doesn't take long to take the first step. So it's the discipline of doing what I need to do now, especially in terms of the future. It's not here yet. So the minute I find myself going back, come back. Talk to somebody. Have a conversation with somebody. You're right here. I'm sure there's a group at Inner Space. You can come in, take a course. There's so many things you could do. I'm sure you can figure out all the answers yourself with just a little bit of facing the music.
This one again is a very personal one. I've been bullied by my next door neighbor and now fear leaving my home. What can I do to stay centered, knowing that they have said lots of bad things about me to other people in the building?
Well, number 1 is you make sure you're safe. And physical safety is a question. Then there are authorities that take care of that. That's number 1. Outside of that, is determining why I'm experiencing stress from that. And one thing, let me eliminate all the unnecessary things. I may not be able to eliminate that, and that's what I'm talking about. This whole class is finding space for things like that. What I can eliminate is what others are thinking. So I have to have enough feeling about myself, and I know who I am and what I'm doing, and stick with my truth, that I can't control what someone else is saying. I have this experience still to this day, that someone has a completely different viewpoint of this, and this one thinks this, and that one thinks that. The moment I get into thinking, what are other people going to think? I'm not going to have a good time, and I'm going to have to be dealing with stuff that doesn't make me comfortable, and I have to take on different behaviors. Maybe I'm going to get angry, maybe I'm going to get frustrated, maybe I'm going to go into denial, maybe I'll stop going out of the house, and all those things are not optimal. So we get to choose. So let me, please, the things that I don't need to be concerned with, let me get rid of those first. The big things, I don't know right away. That's an issue. We have to learn to deal with it, but let me not make my strength diminish by being concerned with what might happen or what so-and-so would think. And I don't need to go out and prove it or anything. I'm ready for another one.
Lovely. And I think this might be the last one. I would like to be more courageous and more trusting of myself and my own abilities, rather than looking to the opinions of others. What will help me? So that's the first part of the question. The second part is, I know I get worried first, and then fear creeps in to destabilize me. I liked what you were sharing about being instrumental and partnering. Can you tell me some more about that within this context?
Well, it comes right back to those three prerequisites for balance, is that I'm not aligned with myself, number one, and that's where the knowledge comes in. The information that I take in, something I find that is true. Like if I want to think about being here, I'm not thinking about on to the next thing that I'm going to do. And then I need the inspiration, the breath. But most importantly, I need to focus. I need to focus on what it is that I'm doing. And what I'm really doing is I'm hooked into a force that we all share, and we really are instrumental, and we partner with one another. I'm partners with you right now. I'm listening as well as speaking. It's not that one person has something and another person does not. It's not the unlearned and the learned. It's not the have and have nots. We're not competitors. We're all partners. But what helps me even before that, and you hit on it with your question, is that of being an instrument. I have found so much support and progress in my own life by adopting this philosophy into my life in a working way, that I'm instrumental for something rather than be Craig. It's not Craig's knowledge. It's knowledge that Craig has joined in with. I've partnered with the knowledge itself. So I'm now also an outlet of it, because I'm hooked into it. So it's coming through me, from the source, through me, to whoever else is in my taking, in my meeting area. The same for you too, as well. All you have to do is hook in. Artie has offered you many choices there. Just the book itself, one class, anything. All these things are methods where to tune in yourself so that you also can be a partner and an instrument. Thank you for asking.
Craig, could you talk about partnering a little more?
Well, partnering is relationship. That's what it really is. And I have these relationships. I have the basic relationships are relationship with myself. That's number one. That's a partnering. And look at the trouble that I have. All the questions that I have received most of them had to do with that, about how I feel on the inside and the partnering that I have with myself. What are the qualities of a good partner? Well, I've got to be attuned. I got to be in touch. That's what allows me to be open and cognizant of what's happening. I need to not compete. So partnering has nothing to do at all with competition. It has to do with connection. So when you think of the word partnering, think of connection. So that connection could be through touch, it could be through sight, or it could even be through so many now, I have no idea, I can't see you, but I'm connected to you through thought, through vibration. And that's when we're getting into the real subtle partnering. And it's what we all really react to. And I alluded to this earlier in the talk, that the words of the talk that I'm hearing, they might sound like something, but then later on, you can't really recall what they were. But you will remember how you feel. Because then I've taken thought to the next level, where thought becomes feeling. And that's where I want to get. That's my partnering. My partnering is partnering my thoughts and my feelings in the same place. What I've been trying to do is, my feelings are like this, shaking, but I have this thought that I want to be still, but I can't quite meet yet. And so what I'm doing is I'm bringing them closer in alignment. Number one, just recognizing that my thoughts and feelings are not in alignment is the first step. Secondly, my little, what I call my inept efforts, my inept steps, tiny little, you saw what the cha-cha, courage cha-cha is, tiny little steps, that's all it takes. But you will get to your destination with tiny little steps. It doesn't have to be magnanimous. You don't have to get the most likes on Facebook. Nothing of that nature. Partnering, in essence, means connection, whether it's with myself, my relationship to my environment. So let me treat my environment well. Let me not pollute it more than it can process itself, especially the people that what it really is about is my relationships with others. Let me partner with others in whatever way I can. The man at the grocery store who puts the stuff in the bags, we have a connection for that moment. Even if I don't say the words thank you, let me have the thoughts thank you. Let me appreciate. I appreciate what you're doing. I have to go to a place where you have to get into a gate to get in. I always have a connection with the person at the gate because they're doing something to let me in, and I have to go through all this about my name and everything. Well, one guy finally, after a year, he just lets me pass through because I finally made the connection with him. I finally partnered with him so that he feels that, okay, and it comes with giving respect. So here's partnering has a lot to do with respect, acknowledgement, connection.
Wow.
That's a lot of words.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
And Artie, you think about it, in your, I would call your advanced thinking, is that it works on all levels. We can take this at any level. Wherever I am in my spiritual practice, these truths still are hold. And I'm really open when I hear anyone talking at all, like, yeah, that's it.
Wow. Okay. I love this. I really do. I think I'm going to walk away with two things from today's talk: the cha-cha-cha of the steps of courage.
The step of courage cha-cha.
The step of courage cha-cha. Okay.
Yes.
And I know it's tickled a number of people, and I think many of us will remember that through the day.
See, you find a way to connect. So that's partnering. Partnering is the method you use to connect, and it doesn't matter what that it is really. There's so many ways to do it, but it's got to be real. You just make a real, sincere connection because you actually care about the connection. You're offering your hand, say, shall we dance? We're all in this together. Thank you to all. Thank you to all who listen. Thank you so much. Thank you.